We should get on and progress it through the House.
Andrew Williams.
Speaker, I rise to support this bill on behalf of New Zealand First, and it's good to see at the end of a parliamentary week and a parliamentary session unanimity across the House on a matter such as this, particularly affecting our commerce and our competitiveness and our openness in terms of our trading economy with our sister country across the ditch in Australia. Mr. Speaker, we have always said as New Zealand First that we will support good policy, but we will oppose bad policy. In this case, this is good policy. It was policy that was introduced by the former Labour government, and it was introduced in 2008. It is somewhat disappointing that it's taken the best part of 4 years to get to this point, and one would wonder why a good policy like this does take 4 years to get through the processes, particularly when Australia had already introduced such legislation and were basically waiting for us to catch up. But as is the case, once again Australia shows us up, and it would be good, Mr. Speaker, if New Zealand could perhaps pick up its act and work a bit closer with our Australian partners in areas such as this in a more swift nature. Mr. Speaker, this is the primary objective of this Commerce Commission International Cooperation and Fees Bill is to facilitate that cooperation between the Commerce Commission in New Zealand and its overseas counterparts, but most notably the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission. The bill proposes improving cooperation by enabling the Commission to exercise its statutory information gathering powers to assist an overseas competition authority, and also to provide any information acquired under its powers to an overseas competition authority. These new powers will also be included in each of the Commerce, Fair Trading, Credit Contracts and Consumer Finance Acts. And reciprocity is the main function for justification for this bill. Any assistance provided by our New Zealand Commerce Commission to an overseas regulator should be reciprocated. This is achieved by requiring formal cooperation arrangements to be in place before the Commission can offer any investigative assistance or information. And that's a good thing. It means that it has to work both ways. It has to work in the interest of New Zealand, but also with the partner country. There are safeguards, and it's good to see that New Zealand firms have already complained on the sluggishness of the Commerce Commission to reach decisions for mergers and other such investigations. And so this is a good thing for our New Zealand companies. For them, a diversion of the Commission's limited resources away from its core function would be unwelcome. The bill provides some safeguards in this regard. The bill also provides for the Commission to seek payment from an overseas regulator for any cost it incurs in assisting. So in that sense, it is a user pays bill, and those overseas authorities that may require assistance from our Commerce Commission can be charged for these services. The proposed powers, the bill seeks to better equip regulators both here and overseas to detect and deter anti-competitive behaviour. And again, that can only be good for consumers, that can only be good for the people of New Zealand to ensure that there is not anti-competitive behaviour taking place within New Zealand. The bill overcomes international difficulties by providing an alternative, and some would say backdoor route for obtaining international legislative documents. And again, that can only help in terms of our commercial competitiveness. Where information is to be provided to an overseas regulator, the Commission must advise any person to whom it relates about that, unless disclosure compromises the overseas regulators or the Commission's investigation. So this is not smoke and mirrors sort of stuff. This is above board. It does mean that the Commission will be required to disclose to any corporates or companies that there is an investigation going on underway. The only time that this will not happen is if it will compromise or prejudice that investigation, and that would perhaps refer to any unlawful activities that may be taking place. And in that regard, there is a route for the Commission to work in a more confidential manner. The existing agreements already in place with the likes of Australia, Canada, the United Kingdom and Taiwan. However, these provide for cooperation on certain matters but don't provide for that reciprocal arrangement, and this bill does provide for that with those existing countries where we do have an understanding. The bill is an acknowledgement, however, that without compulsorily acquiring information which is able to be shared, mutual cooperation is somewhat limited. These existing arrangements will likely to be amended to incorporate the new proposed powers. Mr Speaker, New Zealand First supports this bill. We're pleased that all parties are supporting it. We are concerned that it has taken this long. We do support the fact that the Trans-Tasman relationship, the CER relationship, is a very, very important one. This will help facilitate business between Australia and New Zealand. It will help the two commissions on both sides of the Tasman to do their jobs more effectively. It will ensure that there is a more competitive level playing field, and it will limit any anti-competitive activities that might be happening in any jurisdiction where we have agreements signed under this bill. So it will support New Zealand. At the same time, it can only support commerce. It can only help our companies be more competitive on the global stage, and therefore New Zealand First certainly supports this, and we commend this bill to the House.
Kanwal Bakshi.
Mr Speaker.